Redditors born into a criminal family. How and when did you realize something wasn't quite right? When I was little, my parents grew tomatoes. We had several long greenhouses full of tomato plants behind our house. It wasn't until a few years ago I was talking to my sister and she asked me if I could remember ever eating or even seeing a tomato come from those plants. Oh, maybe they really were tomato plants, but your parents are horrible at gardening. Several long greenhouses of horrible gardening. Mommy, what do you and daddy do for work? We sell tomatoes. Very expensive tomatoes. Tomato? Tastes like grandma. Say what now? I was reading that and thinking exactly the same thing. My dad came home with a pretty bad hole in his shoulder and told me to dump rubbing alcohol on it. He said he tripped, but the hospital was too expensive. That and I didn't recognize the truck he came home in. Rubbing alcohol on an open wound. Wow, your dad's a beast. I once got rubbing alcohol on my anus and almost went to the How? Sometimes regular masturbation just isn't enough. Go big or go home. Go big or go to the emergency room. People keep commenting go big and go to the emergency room. Keep em coming, guys. When I was a young child, my brother, William, got convicted with murder. The police, while looking for him, woke our family up in the middle of the night, kicking our door in and dragging him out. My mother woke me up pissed off because they broke our door. Not that he wouldn't be coming back for about 20 years, but that our door was now broken. I remember thinking that night of how much was my family actually into if this could happen without batting an eye. This leaves me with too many questions. Not upset their child was being taken away. Just pissed about the door. We knew you were coming, but damn. The door? I'm not sure, and I'm not in the psychology field or anything, but this actually doesn't surprise me much. Some people find it difficult to deal with major problems and events directly. She may simply not have wanted to think about the fact that her son just got taken away by the cops, so she focuses her anger on something else, so she doesn't have to think about it, because thinking about it would be too painful. My dad was arrested one night. Arrested really politely, granted, by the sheriff's deputies. Anyway, what happened was that he had threatened to break my sister's arm earlier that day. The deputies came by to pick him up, and he came upstairs to tell me. My room was small, and I was working on something while sitting on the floor, a shirt that I was refitting. I had my shirt off, so I could keep trying it on and adjusting it more. He didn't knock, opened the door, smacked me in the butt with it with two strangers standing right there with him. I asked what the hell he did, but I was more annoyed with the fact that he had opened my door without knocking. I think I was also 17 at the time. When you live with enough on a weekly basis from one person in particular, nothing big they do surprises you. You start to accept that that's just how they are, and it becomes more of an eye-roll worthy thing at that point. Ugh, couldn't you f***ing knock? Pulling shirt on in a hurry. What the fuck did you do? Fine, whatever, bye. My dad wasn't a big criminal or anything, just an abusive manic depressive prick who didn't take his meds. I hope the shirt turned out fabulous. As a child, I spent most of my time with my grandmother. Every day after a soccer game, all of us will go to my house and my grandma will cook up something for all of us. Even when I move away for university, the guys still come over and help my grandma do her groceries, water her garden, and help her around the house. Then one day my grandma call me and say that most of the guys are gone because the police are after them for drug trafficking, and apparently one of the guys is actually the big boss of the region. All my grandma cared about at that point was how is she going to go grocery shopping from now on. My grandma used drug trafficking gang to do house chores for her. Your grandma is the real log. She was probably the kingpin, making her lackeys do all the dirty work, aka bring in her groceries. Worried about how she'll get her groceries now? How will she transport her precious vegetables to regions that will benefit her? How has being a Redditor impacted your daily life? Oh, you mean like staying on Reddit all day? I swear to God I was going to ask the exact same question with the exact words you used. I don't know if I belong in this thread, but growing up I was told my dad was a construction worker, that's why he's gone at night. He always counted a lot of money, like several piles of hundreds. Once my dad gave me and my siblings like $500 each. I used to sit in my room for hours because my dad had friends over. Sometimes we got to get pizza when he had friends over. I think I realized something was up when I learned what weed was and how much there was in my house. Several gym bags worth at least. Now that I think about it, there was a lot that should have tipped me off, like how I was never allowed to answer the door, the expensive gifts, the fights with people I didn't know. His arrest confirmed my suspicions though. Gym bags full of pot and pizza go hand in hand. My mom used to take me along to friends' houses and let me chill ordering PPV movies and eating pizza for hours. When we got the new computer, mid 1990s, my sisters and I got suspicious. It wasn't until we were all in our 20s that my mom admitted she dealt pot for a few years. Oh, a happy end. That's good. Weed doesn't hurt anyone. Your mom made a lot of money and you didn't have to pay for it because she managed not to get attested. Attests ruin families. If you mean arrests, yes, and I think the risk might not have been worth it, although I know too little of the circumstances to say something definite. I'm just happy that it worked out for that family and nobody had to suffer. I was just pointing out your typo. My great-gramps changed his last name to the one I have now due to a murder he committed way back. All his sons were the scariest old men I've ever been around. My mom has told me some vague stories about how they used to deal with people. Luckily my pops decided to play it straight, but he had his psycho moments too. Hell, his own dad sent him to high school with a monkey wrench to deal with a particular bully. Destroyed this kid's face, I guess. To this day there are folks in town who call my dad Wrench. Wow. Gotta tell Pop how much the internet likes him. Wrench is an excellent nickname, especially when you earned it. He paid the iron price for it. The chromium vanadium steel price. You bet your ass it was a craftsman from Sears Roebuck. His name was drop forged. When I realized how weird it was, my family didn't have jobs, but we still had cash. Our bills were paid and we had food on the table. So what did your family do? They ate it before it got cold. Hey whoa, he never said they had warm food on the table. I think it's a she. Never f with mob princesses. Ain't that the truth? I got hooked up with a girl through a friend, who I later found out was connected. She was a nice enough gal, but her family scared the shit out of me. Luckily we decided to end things mutually, but for a while afterwards I feared something. Spent some time with a girl from Mexico during in college. She didn't live in the dorms, but had her own real swanky apartment close by. During breaks she would fly back to Mexico, where her family apparently had an island they would all vacation at. I asked her what her parents did, and she would just say they were in the steel business. Naturally I suspected that her family was in a Mexican mob or something. Sadly I never saw her again after graduation. Nothing big, but my father was a drug dealer before we moved. It was an extreme shock to me because he was a highly respected businessman, had a great six-figure job, and had authority in the workplace. I was 13 maybe? Freshman in high school, just snooping around the attic for no good reason before I left the house to hang out with some friends. I stumbled across this kind of hidden door, so I opened it. There was pounds upon pounds of marijuana and cocaine. I asked my father about it, thinking it was there before we moved in or something. He just said with a stupid grin on his face, "Yeah, I sell that stuff, son." My jaw hit the floor. Are you suffering from cerebral palsy? Do you have a particular affinity for breakfast? It's possible that breakfast may be your one and only job. Do not screw it up. Guys, leave Flynn alone. Clearly he's not having an A1 day. You mean an A1 day, right? Just dial already. My father, whom I see about every 2 to 3 years, used to visit and would bring 5-6 green things in huge plastic wrap squares. I was about 10 when he offered me $100 to help him clear out a warehouse with hundreds of empty plant pots filled with dirt. The warehouse also had foil covered rooms. Then he started bringing in massive white bricks from his truck when he stayed the night. Overheard a family friend talk about him breaking someone's legs with a baseball bat because they owed him money but was too scared to go to the police. He stopped everything when he got busted and nearly went to prison until his girlfriend at the time took the fall for whatever he was nearly charged with. Now he is worth millions and owns a massive company solely funded by the drugs he used to sell. Father used to sell bricks of coke and weed, is now worth millions solely from doing so. Why did the GF take the blame? If he got busted for minor possession, but had a criminal background, he would get a fairly harsh sentence. If she didn't have a record and took the fall, she would see some level of leniency. This is dependent on the area and whatnot, but that is one potential explanation. In addition to that, he could put a stash of cash somewhere for her when she gets out for cooperating. Then they both get something out of it. I did win a group of friends, and I got busted camping. It was actually the cop who suggested it. He said what the penalty would be, since it was only a misdemeanor, but he said my friend could go to jail, since it is his second offense. He also didn't have to actually put me under arrest that night, and I could just go in to do a book and release whenever I had time. It was late, and I think he just didn't want to do all of the paperwork that night. He originally came down because he thought we had fire going, and campfires were prohibited at the time in the area we were in. It was more, hey, put out the fire. That appears to be a battery powered lamp. Ah crap, you have weed, and now I have to do actual work.